Artist Tips for Artists, episode number 3. You don't have to use Photoshop to draw. Now, if you look on my desk here, you'll see that I have Photoshop here, and I use Photoshop for certain things, but I never use Photoshop to draw. I just can't draw with Photoshop. I can't. I don't like it as a drawing program. So I'm just going to walk you guys through a few things. We all look at YouTube videos and we all see things and we all see people do these awesome speed paintings in Photoshop, and there's all the cool brushes and all this other stuff. And you hear all the time, well, Photoshop is the industry standard. Photoshop is the industry standard. Well, Photoshop isn't really hard to work. So guess what? If you get a job at the industry, you'll be okay if you don't know Photoshop going in. But for right now, when you're working, there's this amazing technology called pencil and paper. Invest in a scanner. I did this. I'm just going through character sketches. I don't have to set up anything. I just pull out some pencils and paper. And this is for a video game, Bane of Empires, that I'm the art director for. And this is, I'm going to give you guys kind of a preview, and I want you to see that none of this is done in Photoshop. So that's another one of the alien races that you can play. And that was an earlier sketch of one of the classes you can be. They're called disciples. They're kind of like these monk type characters. That's another race that you could play. And that is an arbiter, which is another class you could play. And I have a kind of a finished version right here. I didn't do any of this in Photoshop. None of this. This is all done actually I did this with pen and paper, or pencil and paper starting out, and I finished this up. And it's not even really all the way finished yet, but I'm in the middle of it, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. I did that in Clip Studio Paint, or Manga Studio Pro as it's sometimes called. I thought it was Manga Studio Pro. I downloaded it. It said Clip Studio Paint. Same program, exact same program. I don't think there's any difference to it. So I did that in Clip Studio Paint, and I did these characters right here in Clip Studio Paint. As you see, a lot of my drawings were done with Sketchbook Pro. If I'm going to digitally draw something, when I ink, I go to Clip Studio Paint. As much as I love Sketchbook Pro, I don't like it to ink. Nothing, in my opinion, nothing beats the inking tools in Clip Studio Paint or Manga Studio. If you got Manga Studio, you get an older version like Manga Studio Debut 4. That's the first version I ever bought. Get that program if you want to ink, because nothing beats those inking tools, in my opinion. I think they are some of the best up there. They have this little line correction, and you can set it to whatever degree you want. I mean, I wouldn't set it too high, because if you start doing curls and stuff like that, it'll straighten them out. But for those of us that are used to drawing analog, meaning pencil and paper, it helps out when you're doing your inking, and it gives you some really beautiful brush strokes. So all the people that are telling you that you need to draw with Photoshop, or making you feel like you need to paint with Photoshop, that's absolutely not true. You have to use the tools that are working for you. I would strongly suggest that you start drawing on pencil and paper. A scanner, you can usually find a printer scanner. And I scan these in with a super cheap Walmart printer scanner. Mine is an HP. My computer is an HP. So they matched up with each other really nicely. And I think I got it for like, $40 maybe, something like that. So for those of you that are going to transfer your work into digital, invest in two things. Invest in a printer scanner, and also invest in a tablet. I have a Wacom, I have a Bamboo Create, and I have a Bamboo Create, and then I have the smaller one. I can't think of the name. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name offhand. But they're typically about 60 to 80 bucks right about now. And I would use that. I use that to do my inking work and doing some digital coloring and stuff like that. Now, I might digital color stuff in Photoshop, but I've already laid in the lines. But I don't do a lot of that speed painting stuff that you guys see. And I'm a working artist. I don't do any of the, the super concepty, beautiful whatever. I can draw a background. I draw. I'm not a painter. I can paint. It takes me a lot longer than I would like, and I paint for my own pleasure. I have done things where I've painted and it turned out, and I think it turned out good, but my strength lies in how different my art looks than a lot of other people's artwork out there that might be doing um, some game work, and so the company that I work for like the way that I work. So, and I don't work in Photoshop. Nobody tells me that I have to work in Photoshop. So that's my biggest art tip out there. If you cannot find a way to work in Photoshop, then don't. Do what works for you. All right, see you guys next time.